Hello, everyone, and welcome back. This is another episode where I'm not going to be interviewing anyone because I have been dying to talk about this movie. And we saw it a long time ago, and my kids have watched it over and over and over again. We listen to the soundtrack in the car all the time. And I wanted to bring it up because it's a great movie for kids, but it's also great for the parents. And I think that's what makes a really great kids movie is one that's great for the parents too, because the parents are sitting there watching it with the kids to make sure that it's okay. And if the parents get something out of it too, then they've really done a good job. And this movie is really wonderful in that way. It increased my faith and kind of reminded me of things that I needed to be reminded of. And so I want to start off with a scene that the way that they crafted it was just so moving and inspiring. And it reminded me of a lesson that my dad used to kind of hit me over the head with a lot growing up. And it's not a spoiler, I don't think, because you all know, or even if you've never picked up a Bible, I think you still know the story of David and Goliath, at least to some extent. So that's the part that I'm going to show you. But what I want you to pay attention to is the moments before David goes up to meet this giant. And keep in mind that he knows that he's facing the potential of death, but that he has faith that God will see him through this time. He does not have faith in his own abilities. He completely trusts in God's divine will and in God's ability to work through him. And that gives him a sense of calm that is very rare when you're facing up against something like a giant and almost certain death without the power of God. So take a look at this scene and we'll chat about it. I will not be afraid.
Uh-oh. David, you fool.
Okay, so that image there, that clip that I just showed you is him walking up to where he's going to face off this giant. And you can see beforehand he's just by this peaceful stream and he's selecting some stones and he's just in this state of calm. And he picks out a few stones and then he sees this white butterfly kind of go by and land on a stone. And just very assuredly, he picks that one up and puts it into his bag. And then he walks towards this giant, towards this very dangerous thing. And he's just kind of brushing his hand along the flowers and humming and just very peaceful in his walk toward this incredible danger. And that was one of the lessons that my dad would repeat to me over and over again is In order to be calm in the face of something challenging, you have to practice that continuously in your daily life so that when things do hit you hard, when you are faced with stress and peril of some kind, your body knows how to remain calm. And for David, obviously, he lived in this peace of knowing that the Lord takes care of him. And there's references to when he's a shepherd and a lion goes to attack his sheep. And David defeats the lion using his slingshot and a rock and hits the lion on the head, and the lion is defeated. And he gives God that credit. God saved me from a lion. He saved my sheep from a lion. He can save me from a giant. And he really does have this trust in the Lord that gives him this incredible chill attitude. And I think as adults, we need that reminder so much that when we panic and when we stress and when we try to trust in our own abilities, we ultimately set ourselves up for failure. And maybe not complete failure, but at least not the level of success that we would have if we had that internal peace of knowing that we are taken care of by God. And that doesn't mean that, we don't prepare and that we don't use our own abilities to stand up to these challenges, because David does that, right? He doesn't just show up to fight this giant with nothing. He went to the stream and very calmly and collectively picked out a few stones, and he had a plan. He knew he was going to use the slingshot as his weapon for this giant. And even though the King Saul tries to give him a sword and armor, David is assured enough in his own abilities and in God's protection of him to say, that's not what I need. I don't need this big, heavy armor that's going to weigh me down and make it hard to move. I don't need this sword that I can hardly lift, that again is going to make it challenging for me to move. And in what world could he have defeated the giant with a sword when the giant is coming at him with a sword and a spear? The two, when you're matched up in that regard, David was going to fail. And so because of his trust in the Lord and his ability to think clearly, David was able to choose literally the one avenue that had the highest success rate for him, which was a weapon that the giant would be least likely to succeed against, a tiny rock, right? But this giant can't move quickly. It isn't exactly expecting this. He's expecting a fight like he's had in the past with, a man maybe at least close to his stature and using the same weaponry as him. This is an unexpected result, even for the giant, never expected to be taken out by a rock. And it never would have happened if David didn't have that ability to think clearly because of his trust. And this trust in the Lord, it continues throughout the movie, but he also has moments of despair. David has moments of despair and I would say even anxiety of what is happening. What do I do now? But he continues to come back to that point of what is God's will? And once he figures that out, he pursues it with calmness and collectiveness of knowing he's being cared for and that whatever comes is the will of God. And there's another point in the movie where David is older. He's an adult now in the film. and he's faced with another almost certain death kind of scenario. And he's calm again. He's not panicked. He's not fearful. He's meeting it with this serenity that can't be explained without eyes of faith. And there's even one point, without giving too much away, that he is facing very close to facing death. And he says this phrase, or he sings it in the movie, but he sings, and I'm not going to sing it, but he says, whatever, all that I want is to dwell with the Lord. If we don't win today, he is still my reward. So whatever may come, whatever we face, I will not be afraid. And so to be able to say that phrase, that all that I want is to dwell with the Lord, if we don't win today, he is still my reward. So in that moment, he's saying, if I die now, if I don't win, if I die, the Lord is still my reward. And how peaceful of a reality is that? That if you truly are simply longing to be with the Lord, whether you're on earth or whether you're in heaven, then even if you face death, even if death is the result, you're still getting what you have been striving for. You will be with the Lord. And so that's the goal, is to live a life for the Lord, so that either way, you're getting what you've been striving for, to be in his presence. And I think that's where that serenity comes from, and that ability to think clearly, even when stress surrounds you. And you see this in people in your life, right? We see this in truly holy people, that they never really seem flustered. And I'm sure they have moments, but their consistent baseline is peace. And I really do think it's because they've mastered this trust and also mastered this desire to just be with God. And so it really doesn't matter all the bumps and bruises along the way, because if they're communing all of that with the Lord, then they're where they want to be. They're in the presence of the Lord here on earth. And then when it is their final hour, they know they're going to the Lord, or they have faith that they're going to the Lord. So either way, they're going to be with who they want to be with. And so that was one of the lessons I took away from this film that was made for children. Another part of it that is really beautiful, and it's this song that they do with David and his mother. And I'm going to show you a short clip of it because it's phenomenal.
What? Go on. Something new. I don't know what to play. That's okay. This is just a random phrase, but it sounds good anyway. No song arrives fully written. No pot begins fully formed. Are you calling me a pot? Kinda. But you're so much more. The sheep, they do not know where they are going, but they're following the shepherd where he leads. The flower does not know how it is growing, but the rain still falls and gives it what it needs. There's a reason for the colors in your story. There's a picture, though you cannot see it yet.
Okay, so first of all, that song, if you don't even see the movie, just watch that full song. It's so beautiful. Like, the imagery that they add to it is phenomenal. But the message is something that every time we listen to it in the car, it gets me, because I love all the metaphors that they use, that it's so simple. Comparing him to this pot that's being formed, and you see the man kind of start punching the pot because he's frustrated and he's got to start all over again. And it feels like that sometimes in life, like we're just this pot that's getting punched over and over again in order to be formed. And you kinda see David make this face like, "Oh, geez, is that what I'm in for?" And in a way, he is. Later in his life, he does. He gets punched, not literally, but he gets beaten down quite significantly, as we all do. And, but you have to keep going, have to keep allowing yourself to be formed. But the other line that really I love is, "The sheep, they do not know where they are going, but they follow the shepherd where he leads." And I think we all need to do that more than we do, where we may not we don't we none of us know the end of our story, but we have to keep going following the Lord step by step. And I forget who said this or where this idea comes from, but that you only need enough light to see the next step. And then you just, each step, you keep going. And as long as you're in the presence of the Lord, you have that light. And then the flowers, they don't know why they are growing, but the rain gives it what it needs. And then it goes on to say that every thread has a purpose, and that you can't see the final design until you're at the end, because it's still being woven. And that's how we all are. We're all this work in progress. And when we're fighting against that progress or trying to figure out, how does this end, or where is this going, usually we're just frustrating ourselves, and we are losing that peace that David has, that the saints have, of we don't know, and we don't need to know, because the Lord knows. And all we need to know is the next step forward, and that the rest is up to him. That's why it's, I am the Lord your God. I am the Lord your God. I am today. I am this moment. I'm not tomorrow. I'm not yesterday. I'm today. I am. And it's not easy to do. It's not easy to do. And he knows that. The Lord knows that. And that's why he gives us so many, so many resources, so many things that can help us. And even in the form of an animated movie about David and Goliath. So if you have not shown it to your kids, it's a great, great movie. And for you parents, it's so fabulous too. And the animation is beautiful. So it's enjoyable in so many different ways. And my children are ages 2, 5, and 8. And my 5 and 8-year-old really enjoyed it. There's a few scary elements to it, but I would say ages 5 and up should be okay. And there's intensity, obviously Bible stories, they've got some intense themes, but they present it in a way that I think is doable for younger viewers. And there's so many just intricate messages of trusting the Lord in that story. And even if you just watch that one scene over and over again of David selecting stones and just wandering through the field, calmly brushing against the flowers, and kind of bring yourself to that moment whenever you're faced with your own giant, is kind of bring yourself back to that imagery of, I'm going to allow the Lord to fill me with trust and serenity, so that I can face this next step with clarity.